Welcome back to my Golf Fantasy Podcast. And this week has finally arrived. We are at the Masters. This is probably the most anticipated event throughout the year. You know, we go from January to February to March, and finally April hits, and everything everybody's been preparing for. The Masters is finally here. But quickly, we'll talk about the previous week and how the players did, some of the results. But we'll be quick because I think we're going to spend a lot of time on the Masters and how the betting previews can go for this week. So tell me, what do you think about the tournament last week?
Yeah, another exciting finish last week. Loved how the Houston, this course really set up for the last couple holes just to really make an exciting finish. You had 17 the drivable par four, 18 that par five that was long but reachable and had lots of trouble around it. So, yeah, really enjoyed watching the last round. Spawn obviously winning in dramatic fashion with I think he birdied 16, eagled 17 to really take control there, and ended up getting that one shot win over McIntyre. Just so unfortunate. Not sure if some people didn't see it. He had a great drive down the middle there on the 18th, and then snap hooked his, or yeah, no, he wouldn't have snap hooked it. He would have sliced his fairway wood coming in there. And it just unfortunately put him in a position where he really couldn't have a great approach shot. He was in some mud and left it short, couldn't make the putt, but yeah, it was a wild couple rounds. Weather, chaos, survival golf. You had some really big explosions when it came to guys who were playing well that ended up just shooting themselves out of it because they couldn't play in the bad conditions and left it. It was very tricky. So, but it was an exciting finish.
Yeah, I saw a couple players even kind of mentioning, like, I think we should maybe call this one. It was some rough conditions in the end there. Put up some guys had some big scores that, were in contention. So it was rough for them. But I mean, that's the game, right? The guys who can play well through all the conditions are the ones who are going to come out on top. And the fun thing for Spawn, we have had some great stories. Spawn, I mean, I have looked past this guy for many tournaments this year, just not playing well at all. And he just turned it on again and came out of nowhere, especially throughout the year. Like, I think one top 10 finish, if that, all year. Going back to his U.S. Open win, that was the only victory he had. This was the first victory since that victory he had. So hasn't really been playing the best golf, but definitely turned it on this week and put him back in, his name back into contention for things. Now, in saying that, the field wasn't super difficult for him. Well, this felt more like a tune-up that he played well in.
Yeah, no, but like even saying that, I mean, he had to grind, like really grind 27 holes of terrible weather and he put up some decent scores to come out on top here. Really kind of shows his mental toughness, which obviously is going to translate a lot into. I think he's going to be a person we'll talk about later on DraftKings that a lot of people are going to be high on just because of where he's priced and where his game's trending right now, and his ability to really have that strong mental game and come up with the shots where he needed to keep himself in position and not really have any blow up holes. Last 27 or 36 holes that he played there in really tough conditions last week.
Well,
Yeah.
in saying that, that's funny, right? You look at his Oakmont win, that was terrible conditions.
Mm.
Right. So to say that, this guy can Spawn, that is, he can play well in tough conditions, or at least not play very badly in tough conditions while everybody else is struggling. That's kind of what his, it looks like his thing is compared to everyone else. When the weather gets rough, he performs well, or you just see steady. He doesn't bother him. So it's interesting. His last two victories were in like extreme tough conditions, on challenging courses, and he played better than everybody else.
Yeah.
Let's quickly go through our lineups. You had a very good one this week, so why don't we start with you? How'd you do? All the players made the cut, and some great finishes, some terrible ones as well.
Yeah, I mean, you were on me for a few of my picks last week that ended up, making the cut at least. Maybe didn't have strong finishes, but it was an exciting one for me. Definitely kept me engaged here, all weekend. I was updating DraftKings pretty much every hour if I wasn't in front of the TV. So, I obviously had my anchor, McIntyre. I had to pivot to him because Morikawa obviously withdrew, who I had in that place before him. But I was happy with the pivot. Obviously, he was leading the tournament for most of it, and ended up just coming up short, tied for second. But really strong showings, right? I mean, 66 round one, 64 round two. kind of tailed off around 3 and 4, which was pretty common with everybody because of the conditions. I mean, he still had good rounds, everything considered. He shot 72 even par round 3, 70 -2 round 4. And like I said, he was very close, very close at the end and just couldn't kind of put it together. Those last couple holes to get the win. But aside from him, Siwoo was a great pick, I thought. 600, came top 10. It's consistent. -2, -2, -2, -5. I think he had a -6 or -7 round going in the final round. Ended up shooting -5 in those terrible conditions. Had one of the best scores on the course in round 4, which really catapulted him up the leaderboard. And Hideki, very consistent round, tied for 21st. He just really couldn't go super low in those first couple of rounds, which he needed to. Round 3 and 4 were fine. I mean, he was definitely above average scoring, given the conditions, which got him in that top 25 finish. Just really didn't do, I was watching some of the highlights and following a little bit throughout the weekend, and he wasn't his typical Hideki ball striking, putting it close on approach type self. He got himself in some trouble and it wasn't as consistent as he normally is. But again, 9,300 kind of set in my 3-person anchor there, all 3 of them coming in the top 20, essentially, with one of them almost winning. I was happy with those 3. Where I really found the value was later on here. The most disappointing of everybody was Tony Finau. I mean, he was in the top 10 after round 3, and similar to his last start, round 4, he just, I think the windy, wet conditions really hurt him. I'm shooting 78 +6 in round 4, dropped him to a tie for 49th, and ultimately really killed my lineup. Had he kind of had a top 10 finish, this lineup is elite and probably in the top 50. But unfortunately, his poor showing around 4 hurt me. Same with Kirk. So him and Kirk, kind of the 1-2 punch of poor showings that hurt me in this lineup. Kirk was again a guy who was in the kind of the top 15 going into round 4 and shot a 74 +2 to come tied for third. And kind of my dark horse that I took, which nobody had, he was 1.5% owned, was Velimaki, the DP World Tour European guy. I kind of liked his game, especially with the windy conditions that are normally at this tournament. And he came in and he was super solid. I mean, he didn't have a round over 70 all week. He was -3, -2, -3, -2, and ended up coming tied for fourth, -10. So aside from Finau and Kirk, obviously great that they made the cut and had top 50 finishes. The rest of my lineup was really set up to be one that could potentially, I'm not going to say win, but have a really, really strong finish and maybe a top 100 or top 50 showing in this DFS lineup. Instead, I think it was 1,800th and won a few bucks, which will keep me going. But yeah, overall happy with the lineup and where it came or finished up.
Yeah, solid. I mean, getting 6 guys to make the cut, you can almost guarantee you're going to be in some kind of money. So that's solid lineup. I made fun of the Finau pick, and he was sitting first for almost the entire first round. I think he was tied for second going to the second round. But even then, pulled off a -3 in the second round. Like, he was -9 after 2. He was right there and kind of made me eat my words a little bit. And then he came through for me and choked in the 4th. Finau for me, he's not a guy I'm willing to pick just because of his inconsistencies. Great golfer, but he still put up almost 80 points for $7,400.
That's
still very
two
good.
eagles. He had a bogey. He had a stretch of 3 birdies. The guy was his putter. Like, it all depends if that's on. He's a guy that could be winning the tournament. If it's off, he's not making the cut. I mean, he just doesn't have the rest of his game's too inconsistent. So, but yeah, no, I'm happy with where it ended up. And yeah, how about yours? How'd yours do here this week?
So, you know what? It's funny. We both had to pivot away from Morikawa. We were both very high on him. You took McIntyre and I took Sepp Straka. The difference in points between those two was 90. 95. Sepp Straka didn't make that. He was the only guy in my lineup not to make the cut. And if I would have put up the extra 95 points, I would have beat you, but I didn't pivot to McIntyre. I pivoted to Sepp Straka, which was very disappointing. He went even and didn't make the cut. And actually, he triple bogeyed a hole on the back nine. I think it was like 16 or 17 on round 2, which took him out of the cut.
Ugh, yeah, that hurts.
And yeah, I was in it like you were. I was watching very, very close the first 2 days until he missed the cut. Then it's kind of like just discouraging when he did that on, I believe it was 17 shot of 7. And it was just like, just ruined my tournament. I didn't like it. But I had some pretty good picks. So Matsuyama was my anchor. Not great, solid rounds, very consistent, -2, -3, -2, -2. Would have hoped for something better, obviously Sepp Straka was next. But I did find some gems early or down lower, especially at the 8,000 range. So $8,300, I had Hitsatsune. He put up 100 points, top 10, so he finished 8th. His final round was even par, which it kind of is his MO. Always doing well rounds 1, 2, 3. And I think if you look at all his tournaments this year, he's losing strokes to the field in round 4. He didn't play poorly, and he's not in the 4th round. He's just playing almost like par golf in his final rounds when players are going low, and he's always losing spots to the field that way. So played well. He had the chance. Like if he shoots, he went -4, -4, -5 in his first 3 rounds. He shoots -4 in the final round. He is with a Spawn at -17.
Yep.
So again, the conditions, don't make that very easy for him to do that. But yeah, that kind of disappointing finish for him. Still finished top 10. Yalamarju is very high on him. I took him as my golf guy, which I beat you, but we'll get into that in a minute. He played really well. Had the +1 in round 2, which means he was on the cut line going into the 3rd round. He goes -6, -2, especially in those conditions, puts up 92 points. Very, very solid performance. Page, I took him. He finished top 20. He finished 21st, 85 points. And Smotherman, who had a great start to the round. I think he was actually leader at like -6 with Finau for a while, and then fell off to -4 in the after the first round. It went -4 +1, -4 +1. Still at 7,000. He put up 82 points. It's still a very solid pick. Same thing, if I put McIntyre instead of Straka, I'm sitting in the top 100. Instead, I finished in the 6,000 range. Still in the money, but that one pick really hurts, and like we were talking about, if Morikawa plays, he has a very good chance of winning. But his injury, the back that he pulled out at the Players and now this, it's like, it's very concerning, especially moving into the Masters. If he hasn't played the last 2 rounds from injury, then he is so questionable about how well he can actually perform this week. But we'll get into that in a second. So quickly, just my golf guy. I had Yalamarju finish 14th. You had Tony Finau, who was beating me at one point, and then, finished tied for 49th. So I'll take that victory this week. And that just serves you right for picking Finau.
Hey. Yeah, I should have. Well, listen, it was a good gut play at the end of the day. There was no statistical reason why I should have taken him, and he was proving everyone wrong. I meant to send you a text after the first round, even after the second round. Man, look at Finau. Look where he's headed. But unfortunately,
it's funny because if you look at it, Finau with -9 after 2 rounds. Yalamarju was -2. That was a 7-shot difference that Yalamarju had to make up. Yalamarju goes -8 the last 2 rounds. Finau goes +5.
Yeah. Well, even round 3, like, Finau -10 after round 3. I remember, and I think I already said this, but his final 3 holes, like going at like, I think it was like birdie, eagle, birdie or something to get him back to like -1 in round 3. So he was even having a really bad 3rd round, but those last 3 holes, he was able to kind of pull it back together. And I was like, okay, he's back in it. Sure enough, no, I don't think the camera even went over to him once in round 4. He was just miserable out there in the cold, windy conditions. But yeah.
Well, let's get into why we're all here. It's Masters week. So let's give us a course rundown. What's the course looking like this week?
Do we have the music to bring us into this? Not quite. We're not to get there yet.
Not queued up.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously the Masters, the highly anticipated, my obviously favorite and most looked at kind of tournament that I'm looking forward to every year, and so which I'm sure most people have, it's also on their calendars and they're looking forward to tuning in here this week. But some of the course overview, as everyone knows, played at Augusta National. It's par 72, 7,500 yards, pink grass greens. These are the fastest greens on tour. no question. They're gonna, they're going to run nice, and it's going to be the greens are going to be an area where you're going to see guys probably struggle, but it should be interesting. It's a field, so it's actually 91 players this year, so it's a smaller field than last year. I think last year's was 98. It just has to do with some of the guys who have won and different kind of finishes that they've had, which has put the field size at this level rather than a little bit more. Typically, it is around that like 98 to 100 range, but so smaller elite field, a lot of great players obviously in it. It is a unique one, obviously the most unique course of the PGA. It's the same venue every year, which makes obviously, which I'm going to talk about, course history and experience, more important here than pretty much anywhere else. Looking at some of kind of the key course traits that Augusta is going to throw at players here this week. Extreme green complexes. So as I mentioned, lightning fast, multi-tiered greens, severe slopes. There's going to be a lot of leg putting, and the guys who are able to kind of avoid those three putts and are going to be able to leg putt well, are you going to see them? They're going to be the guys that are performing and are kind of closer to the top of the leaderboards. But there's going to be three putts everywhere.
So just if interesting, I read this was there is 4% of three putts made every year at the Masters, when the tour average is like 0.75 or something like that. Like that is like 5x the amount of four putts or three putts that are typically on tour at this course compared to others.
Yeah, I think you'll even see a four putt probably, which is wild. Like there's the occasional the occasional four putt, or especially if it's like super dry there and the greens, like if the pins are in some runoff areas, like it makes it just, it's very difficult around the greens here at Augusta. And this is kind of where the next key course trait is punishing miss zones. Miss the green in the wrong spot, and you're dealing with like a very tight lie in a runoff area with like a near impossible up and down situation. So like missing in the right places and putting yourself in a position where if you don't hit the green, it's an easier up and down is critical here. And that's kind of where the experience and his course history comes into play for some of these guys who have been around this track quite a few times. They just know this stuff, right? It's like, hey, I could hit a 7-iron into this green, but I know if that leaves me short, I'm not going to be able to get up and down. So I should be hitting an 8-iron and leave myself a little long, if anything, right? Like that stuff that course history and like that experience is invaluable here at this course. Another kind of key course trait. So, and as I kind of just mentioned, precision over power, exact iron distances, shot shaping, approach plays, especially in that 150 to 200 range is really critical to give yourself really good birdie looks here at Augusta. There's a lot of hidden wind and elevation changes. You're kind of in the trees, your ball gets up over the trees. That's when there's some swirling wind happening. Guys playing on tee boxes that are elevated. I actually saw an interview the other day and I forget who it was. I believe it might have been Fleetwood. And he was talking about how when he's playing Augusta, how he didn't realize some of the tee boxes the first couple of rounds, you teeing your ball up, but the ball's actually above your feet in some of these areas, which is just crazy. You don't really think of it. You're on a tee box. Normally it's super flat. Some of these tee boxes even have a little bit of elevation changes to it, and which makes you kind of even have to think that one step, like one extra variable that you're taking into consideration on every shot here, right? So there's a lot of risk reward pressure here too. Amen Corner, obviously a lot of signature holes there, holes 11 to 13. This is what's going to make or break a lot of rounds. Aggressive play can lead to a lot of birdies on those three holes, but also can lead to a lot of doubles, which is going to make it, that's obviously one of the more exciting 3-hole stretches here in all of golf, and one that everyone's going to be watching. And just to kind of touch on the scoring environment here, and then I'll kind of flip it over to you, but it's a course that statistically plays almost a shot over par on average. The winning score here is typically between -10 to -14 based on kind of the setups over the last 10 years. But, if the conditions get a little bit gusty and if it's really, really dry, this course can get, really tough. Like normally if it gets they get a little bit of rain, or it's a little bit, if the balls are able to hold on some of these greens, that's when players are able to score here. But if it gets dry, it's going to be really difficult to hold some of these approach shots. And there's going to be a lot of balls running off and into kind of some of the areas where you don't want to be. So it's definitely not a birdie fest by any means. It's more of a strategic scoring course, avoiding big numbers. Double bogeys are lurking everywhere, and the players that are able to avoid those double bogeys and make bogeys, because it's inevitable. Everyone's going to make, a lot of bogeys here. But can you kind of take advantage of those scoring holes and avoid those big numbers, those are the players that are going to come out on top here this week.
Yeah, I agree. So some of the things to look for, right? And there are a lot of stats you could look for at Augusta. And, we'll just go number one for me is just course history. There's actually PGA put out, PGAtour.com put out an interesting article that says for the history of the tournament, there's only actually been one golfer other than the inaugural Masters that has won the tournament without playing around their previous, and it was in 1999, Fuzzy Zeller.
Wow.
Right? So course history, you have to look at course history. And then there's some interesting ones, something like if the previous 6 out of the last 8 winners have finished top 6 in the previous 10 years, the 16 of the last 18 winners have finished top 30 in the previous 10 years. So if you have never played well at Augusta or never played Augusta, your likelihood of winning is very, very small. There's been some good opening tournament performances. Berg 2 years ago, 2 years ago, he finished second.
Mm-hmm.
4 years ago was Zalatoris. 6 years ago, they all finished second, but they never won. And they're anomalies. So number one, check the course history. If players haven't played, and trust me, that's been pulling me away from some guys that I really like for this course because they've never played a competitive round here.
Yeah.
So number one, definitely look at course history. So then let's go to strokes gained approach. Okay. And we're looking in the 150 to 200 yard range. That is the most common hit, approach shot that you're going to have. And that's the first thing to look at. So, and we'll get to off the tee because that's going to be a thing as well. But that approach game, you mentioned it, is going to be very key for players, right? So you could look at it, strokes gained approach from that distance. You can look at stroke gained or greens and regulation from that distance. These types of things. Green regulation is a good one because if you're not on the green, you're missing in tough spots around the green, which is very hard. And then that moves into the next key stat is strokes gained around the green, right? Holding these greens are going to be tough. But conditions, if it gets a little wet, it might be a little bit easier. I checked the weather. Sunny for straight days.
Yeah,
it's sunny for the next 2 days. It is sunny and warm, beautiful conditions, and it's going to make this course very hard. -10, maybe not. All right. This is going to be very, very tough. So when you go strokes gained approach, you maybe want to see the guys who are going to hit the green more. But then, when you're missing, you need strokes gained around the green, right? You can look at scrambling too. You can take a look at both kind of as a comparative stat to see who's going to be able to get up and down from off the green. But that's going to be, and those sand traps are tough, controlling the ball, because even then, your pitch shots from some of these spots aren't going to be your regular pitch shots. They're not just going to be, if I land it here, I'm going to get it close. These things run forever, right? So, it makes the Tiger hole out, kind of even more interesting, right? Look how much green he had to give himself in order to make that shot. These are the types of shots that players are going to have to hit, shots that they've never hit before, right? So, and then strokes gained putting on bent grass. This is going to be some of the hardest putting that these guys have. So, you can look at 3-putt avoidance as being another thing, who's most likely to avoid 3 putts. Even then, I'd say that stat is even tough to look at because players have such small percentages that it's a situation where, unless someone has really bad stats, you might want to avoid them. Otherwise, a lot of golfers are very good at this. So kind of look at it with a grain of salt and on that separation from first to 50th, if it's even meaningful at all. Par 5 scoring. Okay. You could score par 5s here. Now, you could also score very bad on par 5s here, right? If you don't have any kind of good shot off the tee, then you're looking to, there's creeks, right? I think it was 12.
Mm-hmm.
I think, did I get that right?
Rays Creek there. I'm pretty sure 12 is par 5 there. Yeah.
So, you got to watch for that.
No, 13. You gotta watch 13. Azalea, yeah. 13 is what it is, yeah.
There you go. So you got to watch for those. So there's opportunities, but there's also opportunities to score very badly. So, you could look at birdies or better on par 5s, which is cool because you're going to try to score But if you go par five scoring average, meaning that players play par fives better than others, possibly as well. So there's two things to consider there. Which one do you want to look at? I'm looking to score on DraftKings, so I'm doing, I'm thinking about birdies and better. But you can go par five scoring just for the sake of I'm also not going to lose points to bogeys and doubles potentially, right? And those are probably the main stats to look at. Other things to consider, yeah, strokes gained, tee to green, yeah, sure. That's kind of like the whole buildup of a golfer. But they also say here driving distance, that the previous 10 winners have all been in the top 30 of driving distance. Okay. Now, as much as that's true, you still have to be very accurate off the tee here. I'm like discrediting that a little bit. It's a 7,500-yard course, right? This is not a short course. You need to get the ball out there. So something to consider as well when you're looking at key stats for performances. But again, toughest course probably that the players have played so far, and maybe even for the rest of the year, aside from some other majors. So let's get into our lineups. You want to start off your defending champion from last week, and I think you have maybe one of the most interesting lineups that are currently going right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be too many with the same lineup. So I went with a very controversial live lineup here for the Masters. Obviously, I can't compare a lot of their strokes gain numbers since they are on the live and haven't played in a lot of in any PGA Tour events this year to kind of compare with these guys. Because of that, I'm going to look at one category that I believe trumps pretty much every other one this week, which is course history and experience. First pick here went with Bryson DeChambeau. Really, so this guy, 10,200. Historically, he's a little bit has been inconsistent here at times, but he's made 5 of the last 7 cuts here. Best finish was tied for 5th last year. His game's really trending upward. If anybody watches him, whether it's YouTube golf or on the live, I mean, I think he's won like 3 of the last 5 live events. His game's kind of in the right, trending in the right direction, and he's an elite distance and par 5 scoring guy, which you had just mentioned, super critical here. So, and he's somebody who around the greens, he's improving. His putting is normally above average, or at least kind of on par with the tour average. So, I think he's even though Augusta is still going to kind of like neutralize his bomb and gouge kind of style slightly here, even though he thinks it's a par 67 for him or whatever he says it is. I think he's really a high ceiling DFS play here with like legitimate win potential here at Augusta this week. So he's my first player. Again, proven experience, distance and par 5 scoring, and a guy who I think can win here for me. So I took him at 10,200. Went with, obviously, again, that's my live lineup trend here. Jon Rahm as my second pick, a winner here at the Masters in 2023, full top 10 finishes. He's normally elite off the tee when it comes to strokes gained. So I'm just talking, obviously, this week. I think he's a guy who can kind of be in that upper tier when it comes to strokes gained off the tee and around the green. And actually, historically, his putting, even though it's been hit and miss, is actually improves when he's at Augusta versus the baseline tour average. So Augusta, whatever it is, these fast greens, he seems to do really well. And it's another reason why I think he's going to be a great fit here. Um, and why somebody I think can really have a top 5, potential here this week and anchor my lineup. After that, so I took 2 guys in the 10s. So now I had to go kind of find some value. And this is another reason why I ended up going with this lineup. I took those 2 guys and not quite sure if I wanted to go with a live lineup, but then I started to be able to kind of piece it together and it just made sense. So went with Tyrrell Hatton as my third pick here at 8,100. A best finish, I believe he was tied for 14th here last year, but his best finish here at the tournament, he did have a top 10, coming tied for 9th, 2 to add to that. So he's had multiple cuts made here, trending in the right direction recently. The reason I think he's a strong fit is he's normally a guy who's really good and is picking up quite a few strokes when it comes to strokes gain approach in the terms he's played on the PGA, as well as typically when he on bank grass and fast greens. He's another guy who's normally is above average against the field in that category. So he's also a really good tough conditions player. Historically, he scored well at courses where the conditions are a little bit tougher, and obviously it's going to be a tough track for him. Concern with him is obviously his emotional volatility. He's a guy that can kind of implode if he's not playing well. And so I think he's a potential high-end mid-tier play with top 10 upside. So that's Tyrrell Hatton. Then I went with a guy who actually, I think you're a little bit off this guy, but I actually like him a lot more than maybe I should. Cameron Smith. Now, all these live guys, there's obviously the argument to be made, like, they don't play 4 rounds. They're not playing enough golf leading up to this, but this is on everybody's calendar. Guys have been doing whatever they need to do to get ready here for this event. So I think all these guys are going to be in good form. He's had 5 top 5 finishes at Augusta. His best was tied for second in 2020. He's elite around the greens. Putting, arguably he's one of the best in the field on these types of greens when it comes to putting. So I think another reason why he's a fit, Augusta typically rewards creativity, touch, and leg putting, all areas where Cameron Smith is normally elite. And when his metrics have been tracked in strokes gained against the PGA Tour, he's typically been, again, elite in those metrics and in the top or the better half of the tour. So I think he's one of the best course fits in regards to his game for Augusta. He's just super obviously looked over because of where he's playing right now and whatnot. But given his history and kind of his archetype, he's a guy that I think can really play well here, and he's really good, well suited for Augusta. So, and obviously as his previous events have kind of shown. So now my lineup gets a little dicey. After you take 4 guys, you really got to continue with the live trend, and there's not a ton out there that you can grab who qualified to play here. And so with the 7,100 Sergio Garcia, he's missed the last couple cuts here at Augusta, but he was a winner in 2017. He's got a ton of starts here. His course knowledge is probably one of the best in the field. Historically, again, I'm going with a lot of historically strokes gained metrics here. His approach and ball striking is his best part of his game. So Augusta is a second shot golf course. That's where he typically performs well. My concern with him is he's a super volatile putter. His aging is going in the wrong direction. Is he somebody who, can perform well and put in great rounds like we've seen like Fred Couples do as he got later on in his career? Yeah, I think so, because he's like a classic Augusta veteran value play for me. And so that's kind of why I gravitated to Sergio. There's a lot of other guys in the 7,000 range I think I could pivot from Sergio, but wanted to keep my lineup consistent here with the live theme. And rounding it out, I took Dustin Johnson. I think you gave me this stat before. I mean, from 2019 to 2022 or something, he's got like the best under par, or he's literally the best under par, best total strokes kind of under par at Augusta. And so he's got multiple top 10s here to go along with his 2020 win. He's got that high ball flight, elite par 5 scoring, and, he's just historically dominated this tournament when he's been in form. So are we getting the Dustin Johnson that's in form, that's played here well before, or are we going to get the guy who, doesn't care, is a little bit more nonchalant? That's gonna be the decision maker here. So my concern obviously is his recent form. He hasn't really been even playing well in a live lineup that isn't the best in the world, and he's a very much a boom bust play. I think he's going to be extremely low owned. So if he does kind of outperform his value at 7,000, I think I'm going to be doing quite well here. Honestly, I just wanted to make the cut. That's all I'm hoping for. So that's kind of how I rounded up my lineup here.
Okay, so I like it. It's fun. Okay. And the top 4 guys, I could see it, right? Cam Smith had the miscut last year, but historically plays very well here. So the top 4 I could see. It makes a lot of sense. When you get to Sergio, like you said, aging, I think he's at 27 starts at Augusta, I think, something like that. Like, that's insane and has the potential. DJ's fun. I think for DJ, if he plays well round 1, I think you'll see that nonchalantness kind of go away and be like, okay, let's dial it in. And so like for me, if you're watching and you see him go low on round 1 or even be competitive, I think you'll see that he can hang with everybody. I don't think he cares for golf that much anymore. Realistically, right. I think he's more just golf is fun for him, and it's not for making a career anymore. And that's why I don't think he has any interest of leaving live forever as long as it's around, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you, and you said it, so let me ask you the question, okay? The top 4 makes sense. I can see them. You have about $14,000 left. I think it was a $14,200. So you have to pick 2 guys in the 7,000 range or a little lower. If you were to take Sergio and DJ, who are 2 guys are you taking that are in that range that you could sub out?
Yeah. So Sergio, if I'm not taking him, I'm probably going to go $100 higher and take probably either Adam Scott, or I'd probably take Spawn after his week last week. They're both at 7,200. I like Adam Scott, his previous experience, like obviously form here. He's played extremely well at Augusta in the past. At 7,200, I think he's good value play. I think he's made all the cuts. He's all the tournaments he's played this year. He's made the cut. He's got 3 top 10s. I think he's a guy who can really do well here this week. And then Spawn, I just love his like grinded out mentality. He's really good on challenging golf courses. Won last week, obviously. His game's in good form. So I'd probably go up $100 and kind of grab a guy in the 7,200 range. And then after Dustin, obviously that'd put me down in the 69 range. So I'd have to go a little bit lower. But there's a few guys I like. I like Harry Hall. It's one guy I'd probably pivot to. Came tied for
Putting.
28. Yeah, putting's yeah. You're going to be again. It's going to depend here on that end of things. If you're getting a guy who's going to come and obviously be a lead on the putting side, it'd be great. You know, it came tied for 28 at the Texas Children's Open his last start. So he's got a top 10 finish at Arnold Palmer 2 terms before that. I think he's a guy here that can do quite well. And then there's 2 others I like. I like Gerard. I like Ryan Gerard. He's been inconsistent this year. He's got some great finishes, and then he's got a few missed cuts and top 30s. But really like Ryan Gerard. And then another guy who's kind of on my radar again in this 7,000 list, which he's burnt me in the past. But I like Aaron Rye still here for this
Right, of
course too.
course.
You know, he's got a few missed cuts here the last couple he's played. But again, I think he's an approach player. He's a guy who doesn't typically make big numbers. I think he suits well for Augusta too. So those are kind of 4 different kind of pivot options I think I'd go if I didn't take those 2. I don't know. I'd have to dig into their stats a little bit deeper to really figure out which ones I'd want, but I like those 4 names.
Well, okay, so I like the JJ Spawn. I'll talk about Ab Scott in a minute.
Yeah.
Because I did go there. But JJ Spawn, I mean, everything's good for him except for his kind of scrambling around green putting.
Mhm.
Overall, collectively, is probably like the little suspect for him. But you know, he has the 2 times he started here, he has made the cut. He has a top 25 in one of those. So definitely something. And then, you know, you talked about coming in to the tournament being, you know, defending champion from last week, you know, probably very good pick. And, you know, we talked before we started recording, you know, a lot of people at 7,200 might be high on him just from his recent
Yeah.
performance. So, you know, then you're like, okay, do I take him when he's going to be potentially 15% or more, you know, or do I stay off him because too many people are going to be high on him? And if he doesn't perform well, then I get that over the field in our situation? Or do you say, oh, he's going to perform well enough that I need to hang with everybody picking this guy at 7,200, right? So
Right.
2 things to consider there. And when you go lower down, I think the thing to look at, you know, you started to mention it, things like Gerard, little to no history here.
You
So
know who
starts
on my radar though, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off that I forgot. I actually had him on my list before, who's performed here a couple times in top 25 finishes is Michael Kim, which I forgot about. Great approach player. Coming off tie for second last week. Last year at the Masters, he was tied for 27th. You know, he's a guy at 6,700. I mean, his game's trending in the right direction, and he's a guy who's got some history here. He could be actually somebody who I think I'd probably pivot to maybe over Aaron Rye, and just because I again have a sour taste in my mouth with him. But he's another guy that I think would be somebody interesting to put in my lineup if I did
Well,
make
the
the switch.
interesting, both Kim and Rye actually finished they finished the exact same last year. And I also like Michael Kim over Aaron Rye. His game is built better because his par 5 scoring, Michael Kim par 5 scoring and Michael Kim around the green putting is a level up from Aaron Rye. So I like that as well. And the interesting thing about Ryan Gerard, because, you know, he has had some very good performances, very bad performances. Again, little to no history here. Off the strokes gained tee to green, just go full tee to green. He's in the top 20 on tour, and his par 5 scoring is top 20 on tour. So something to consider, you know, as a pretty much a rookie at Augusta, could he be one of those anomalies that, you know, finish in the top 10 because he performs well? He has the potential, right? And none of his stats put him outside the top 40 in this event for all the key stats that we were talking about. So he's in the top 40 across the board minimum, right? So he's got a game that could play well here, you know, and he's coming at 6,800, right?
Yeah,
So
you come top 40, you're smashing your value at 6,800.
yeah,
Those guys are guys that you're putting in your lineup. I think those are great Scotty lineup builds too. If you're taking Scotty here and having to piece together a lineup kind of deep down in the low 7s, high 6s, like I think those guys are great fits there.
yeah, and that's it. And you said it. So like I thought about the Scotty lineup too. I'll get into mine now, but I thought about the Scotty lineup and I did go that low to see who was there. And to be honest, the guys that they put at 6,500 and below, which you'll probably need to grab one of those in the Scotty lineup, these are historic winners. VJ, Mike Weir, things like that, where you're Angel Cabrera, Jose Maria Albathabal. It's like, okay, these guys haven't performed here well at all in the past, X amount of
10 years, yeah.
Yeah, and they're just like, oh, I get to go play Augusta for the next few years before my exemption runs out, so I'm going to capitalize on it and go. So it's hard. It's very hard to take a Scotty lineup. And when I looked at that, I said, I'm okay. Scotty lineup's out the door, but what else can I have, right? And so actually, I started with I took the top 10. And I was like, okay, let's see if I can take two, just like you did. You got Bryson and Rahm. So I took the top 10 and I was like, okay, what two guys can I have? I'm expecting that these top 10 players on DraftKings are going to be in the top 25 by the end of the tournament, right? Most of them are playing super well. Most of them are have history here. Like there's a reason why these guys are priced the way they are for Augusta, right? And number one being course history, I'm thinking, okay, let me see which ones I can take, right? And the first guy I took was Xander Schauffele, okay? He's in the last 5 years that he's played Augusta, he's finished 8th, 10th, he got cut, and then finished 3rd. But he has 4 top 10s in the last 5 years. On top of that, his course stats. So he's 12th in tee to green, 17th in driving distance, his 50th in birdies are better on par 5s, which is a little concerning, but his scrambling and putting is top 10. So I'm thinking, and especially if you're going to lose strokes by putting, this guy's not going to lose those strokes for you. So especially with the fast greens this week, I think Xander is, in my opinion, my favorite to win this tournament. Considering, sure, you can pick Scotty as the favorite. If I'm picking someone other than Scotty as being a favorite for me, I'm picking Xander. So Xander's the guy I picked first. He's almost my lock. And the thing that influenced me was, again, go read that PGA Tour article. Very nice. I love they do this every major. And they actually have him as hitting every single statistic that they come in for course histories on. If you're going to win, you must follow these things. And Xander's the guy. And this convinced me. So he fits all the categories. He fits everything that you need to win at Augusta. He's had some great performances here. So Xander was my number one. And then I waited. I got to pick the rest of my lineup, and I waited to pick that second guy. So what I did was I purposely, so I started looking at the 8,000s, and I was like, okay, these guys and the mid 7s to 8s or like high 8s, they were very comparable up and down the board. So I decided that the guy who's going to pick next doesn't have great course history. He's played here before, was Akshay Patia. And the reason why, he was in my top 10 for course stats for this course. He's 16th in tee to green. He's, 10th in par 5 scoring. And he's 9th in scrambling and putting. So he has all of the key stats. And it's his approach game that's probably the most shaky, right? And we listed it as essentially second in your performance. He's 4th. So that's the thing that's going to hurt him if something does. And he finished and 35th the last 2 years. So he's made the cut, hasn't necessarily performed well. But again, as a rookie coming in to the Augusta and finishing 35th, okay, that's fine. He's got another round. He's now his 3rd start. I'm confident, especially with the way he's playing so far this year, I'm confident that he is going to perform well at Augusta.
Well, I actually like him, and I looked at him quite a bit. I've got a few other lineups other than the ones that I put on here where I've got him in one other one. And the interesting thing too with him is there's a lot of dogleg left. So 13 to par 5 is a dogleg left. He is a left-handed hitter who naturally fades the ball. He's going to be feeling a lot more comfortable a lot around some of these, if a lot of these guys that are having to draw it, that isn't their natural draw, who are righties, they struggle with these holes, right? Jon Rahm is one of them. He doesn't like to hit like a draw on 13, but he has to if you want to put it down there a decent ways where you can go for it in 2 or have the opportunity to. So I think Patia, given how many dogleg lefts here, he's going to be extremely good off the tee this week.
Well, and there's something at Augusta too, right? So you got Phil Mickelson, you got Bubba Watson, Mike Weir, all lefties that have won at Augusta. Okay. And I told myself I wanted a lefty, at least one. Like I would take a whole lefty lineup if I could find 6 lefty golfers in this field. But it's because of that. The shot shaping for lefties is much better than for righties on this course. And it's well known, it's been talked about how lefties actually do very well here because of the dogleg left. So in that case, for me, it emphasizes Patia's game on being able to perform well here. And he still gets the ball very well. And so in that case, I'm thinking, he's going to be just fine. Anyways, Patia is definitely a guy that I think can finish in the top 10 here. And he regardless of his previous finishes here, I think he now is third time at the course, definitely has the option to perform compared to what he's performed in the past, being a rookie. And then right after him, actually, the player I have as being the best suited for this course this year is Minwoo Lee. Okay. 10th tee to green, 10th in driving distance. He is number one in approach 150 to 200 yards. And his worst stat is his scrambling and putting, and he's still top 20. Okay. So he is the guy I have ranked best. He has a 22nd place performance. He has a 14th place performance here. He did miss a cut 3 years ago. Last year finished 5th, but he's played here now. This is going to be his 5th start. He is playing fantastic. He's coming off the victory a couple weeks back. So, and what is it? How many top 10s now? Let me look because now I'm interested. What is he? He is 4 top 10s all in his last 8 starts.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? That is going back to one last year. This season alone, in his last 5 starts, he has 3 top 5s, 2 of them, or 3 top 10s, 2 of them are top 5s. And the ones he didn't, he tied for 12th and tied for 32nd. 32nd was at the Players. So he is just playing phenomenal golf. I think he definitely has the game to play well here. So easy pick for me was the Patia Minwoo Lee. I think those two guys, 7,800, 7,700. It was that easy. And I know I need to pick guys in this range. And these were the 2 top players for me to pick in this range. Then I went with a guy that I've liked for the last 10 tournaments and playing very well was Nicolas Højgaard. Okay. Similar thing off the tee, 13th, driving distance, 8th. His approach game is again shaky in the 40th range, just like I think Patia is similar kind of game, but he's top 5 in scrambling putting. And he made this cut last year, but he has top 16 the year before. So again, he's making his 3rd start. If you go for the guys with full experience, these are the guys that are going to be costing you a lot of money. And I've already told myself I'm going to go get 2 of those guys. And so I'm going with guys who have little experience here, not rookies, but have the game to play well. And that's where I went with Nicolas Højgaard. And then I did go down, and we talked about him. When you give me $7,200 on Adam Scott in DraftKings, when the guy made 25 starts here, playing super well this year. I think you said it earlier. What is it? He's got 13 of last 15 cuts made. He's got a top 10 4 tournaments ago. He's got an 11th place at the Arnold Palmer. He's just playing very consistent golf. He's made every cut this year, right? And so to me, it's a simple $7,200 pick. Adam Scott could fit my lineup very well when I'm looking for that experience, because I took 3 guys who have less than 3 years experience at Augusta that I like their game. And Adam Scott historically plays very well here. His best years are probably behind him. But if I'm looking for somebody at 7,200 to make the cut, I like Adam Scott. And on top of that, so off the tee, he's 11th. And even distance, he's still top 20, right? His putting approach statistics are both in the 35 range, which is still better than 2/3 of the entire field. He's still in the top 2/3 of the field when it comes to the stats he's least good at. So, and his putting at Augusta is fantastic, right? He has an Augusta victory, doesn't he? He has a green jacket.
I believe so. Yeah.
I think it was like 12 years ago, but he still knows this place very well. And he finished in my top 20 of course stats that I picked for this course as a top 20 golfer on tour for this particular course. Okay. And that left me with
he won in 2013.
About 10,000.
I just looked it up. 2013.
2013.
So yeah, a lifetime ago, but still
he knows it, right? So then it went back, and so I had about 10,000 left, right? So I could have went with Rahm. Actually, I think I was maybe $100 short of Rahm, but a guy that was on my bench, I'm gonna go with him, and because he's played well, and he's played well at Augusta, and he's in my top 5 course stats for this course. And it's Ludwig Auberg. Finished second 2 years ago, finished 7th last year. He's my top 5 for stats. Off the tee, he's 7th. Distance, 16th. Bogeys are better. He's 8th. Scrambling and putting, he's top 25. Like, he is just so good for this particular course. And let me see, what was his approach game?
He's also coming off tie for 5th last week, tie for 5th at the Players, tie for 3rd at the Arnold Palmer. His game since you benched him has really been better. So now that you're bringing him off the bench, he's probably going to have a poor showing. But
Yeah, probably.
yeah,
It's his approach from distance is not great. His approach from 150 to 200, I think I got him here at about 70th on tour. Okay. So like that's his stat that's probably the most scary, but he plays well in all other aspects of his game, and he knows how to play this course well, right? 2 starts here at Augusta at Masters Week, 2 top 10 performances, second place finish. He is definitely a guy to keep an eye on. So, I mean, that's what I went with. I mixed in experience with guys who have the capability or the stats that are capable of performing well at Augusta.
who's the one guy on your lineup who you'd say you're least confident about? That's not Adam Scott.
I'd say it's probably Batia. Okay, he's the youngest out of those guys. I mean, him and Nick Hogard, the 2 youngest out of that group, and Hogard has the top 15 finish, so I think he has a little more confidence. Patia hasn't played well here yet, and so it makes me a little bit nervous. And like I said, his age, his youth may play into this particular event as being detrimental, right?
Yeah.
So you remember Sergio when he first, he had that amazing run against Tiger, doesn't win, and it took him a while before he picked up that victory, although he played well at Augusta consistently. Right, I think it took him like 12 starts before he got his victory. So I think Batia is probably the one that's most shaky. Adam Scott, yeah, I mean, he's not the guy I'm thinking he's going to win, but I picked him because I think he's going to make the cut and have a potential top 30 for being my lowest paid guy.
Right. So let's take Batia out of it. Like now you've got 400 already remaining with Batia in your lineup. So like you go up to 8,200. We're talking guys like Shane Lowry, Chris Goddard, Patrick Cantley, Sungwoo Kim. I mean, these are all guys who like super solid guys, and Goddard's been having an amazing year. Any kind of reasons why you didn't go with one of those guys?
Yeah, Goddard was my guy. I'd say that I left off. I took him in a different lineup. He's left off because he has no history here. And that's what turned me off. I have him. His driving is top 5, whether it be tee to green and distance. He's top 5. His par 5 scoring is top 15. His putting is most suspect. I think we all know that. And he has no course history, right? So yeah, when I'm thinking about who am I going to take, right? So, and Sepp Straka, he was there. I'm already disappointed from him.
I was going to say, I left him off the list there because I figured he was benched for you now. So
yeah. Russ Henley was another one. He has a top 5 finish here 3 years ago. He has great stats. He has great putting and scrambling. Fantastic. He can score well on par 5s, $7,900. So just $100 more than Patia. I did have him on and off my roster, picking, should I pick him? Should I not pick him? And he's had some very volatile starts. He's been up and he's been down. So I kind of left him off. I think Patia is playing more consistently this year than Russell Henley, although Russell Henley does have more of a known history at Augusta. Also, Russell Henley got cut last year from Augusta, so something that kind of pulled me away from him as well. But I'd say those 2 golfers are probably the 2 that draw most close. And there's one guy I want to touch on that I didn't pick, and entirely because of his course history here, but I do have him ranking as probably the best golfer for Augusta. And we're talking about Jake Knapp. And I'm high on Jake Knapp. You know, I've been high on Jake Knapp. 6 out of 7 top 10 finishes this year, playing super well. Distance off the tees, top 10. Birdies are better, par 5s, he's top 3. And putting, scrambling collectively, he's the number 1 on tour. Okay.
Yeah.
He has 1 start here in 2024, and he was 55th. He made the cut, but he also didn't participate last year, and that turned me off of him. But he is definitely skilled enough to perform well at Augusta.
Yeah, at 7,400, he could be a smash value play for sure. And that's a guy who, again, going back to it, some of those Scotty lineups, I mean, Jake Knapp can easily be fit into a lot of those. So no, he's and he also came tied 6th at the Texas Open recently. That was after getting cut at the Players. Tied 6th at the Genesis, tied 8th at Pebble, tied 8th at the Waste Management, tied 5th at Farmers. I mean, guy's having a year.
And some of those are elite
Elite
rosters
Fields,
that he's
signature
been a part.
events,
Yeah, the field's
signature
been
events.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. No, he's definitely a guy who can win, or who can give a really good performance. If not, who knows? He could surprise us and win this week. So I like that pick for sure.
So, if you're not taking a live, let's just go there one time and you're thinking, I'm going to try to set up the best roster. And let's not pick a top 10 guy. Let's go with, anywhere from that, 8,000, like 8,500 range to 7,500 range. What guy are you looking at? What two guys did you say, oh, you know what? I want those guys.
That's a good question. So one guy I kind of still had, I liked a lot, and this is slightly above your range at 8,500, and I believe he's a left. Is Robert McIntyre a lefty? I think he might be.
He's a lefty.
I think he's a lefty. So he was on my, and I think I talked about this earlier on his 18th hole where he sliced it, but he actually did hook it because he is a lefty. So, Robert McIntyre's a guy that was on my radar. He had a great finish last week. He's been performing, tied for second last week, tied for fourth at the Players. He's got multiple top 20, 25 finishes this year. He's made every cut. I mean, he's a guy I really liked at 8,600. And then just kind of looking here, I have him in a lot of my lineups. I don't think he might have, you correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he's played here before, but Siwoo Kim. He was another guy who, what do you have? Do you have any stats on him playing here?
So Siwoo has played here before. He didn't play last year.
Right, that's what it was last year.
Yeah, he didn't play last year. So the previous he's got a tie for 12th, and then he's got 30th, 29th, 39th. So his best finish was back in 2021. So he has played here, and his off the tee stats are great. It's his scrambling that is killing him.
Yeah, he puts up some bigger numbers. Like every tournament he plays, he makes a couple double bogeys, but he's usually pretty consistent with making a ton of birdies too everywhere he plays. So he's a guy, again, I like his game. I mean, he's somebody who's had a pretty good year. I mean, he's making cuts earlier on the year. He had several top 10 finishes. He kind of went off the rails a little bit, still making cuts, but coming top 40, 45th at Pebble, 50th at the Players, then 10th here last week. So Siwoo's in some of my other lineups that I've got too. I had another guy who I like in that kind of 78 to 85 or 86 range here this week. And I'll throw in one other guy who I do like, and he's in one of my other lineups that I really like a lot, is Justin Thomas. I think he could be a good value play here this week at 8,300. He's got the course history. He's somebody who, again, obviously coming off of back surgery. He came in, he missed the cut at the Arnold Palmer, but then came tied for 8th at the Players and tied for 30th at Valspar. Took a couple weeks off to get his game in form here this week. I took him before and I mentioned his name and he really hurt me, but I'll throw him out here this week.
Yeah. You know what? I'm just going to throw one more name just in that range as well, with Sungjae Im. He has a 5th place finish last year. He was cut the year before, but then has a 16th in 2023, 8th in 2022. He has the 2nd place finish back in 2020. So he has 3 top 10 performances in his 6 starts. So something to keep an eye on. I'm not a huge fan of his lack of play recently, but I mean, actually, didn't he finish? Did he finish 2nd recently in a tournament? I want to say he did well. What was it? Yeah, 4th. He finished 4th at the Valspar. So that was essentially, he missed the cut at the Arnold Palmer and the missed the cut at the Players. Remember? And then everybody was off him, and he was really low, $7,100 at the Valspar in a non-signature event, and the guy finishes tied for 4th because he is really elite. But then at the Texas Children's Open, he finished tied for 60th.
Yeah, no,
he has the game.
He does. We can keep throwing names out there, but there's one other guy do you have Jason Day in any lineups?
No, I almost did though, only because his history here is very good. He finished tied for 8th last year. His putting scrambling is excellent. But I didn't pick him. Yeah. So listen, it's the event of the year. It beats all other majors in my opinion. It's the only golf tournament that I actually look forward to, and due to scheduling issues, I am out of town, so me watching on my phone is going to be a thing.
I think we're both out of town. I think we're both we gotta fly When you said out of town, I thought you meant you're out of town so that no one can reach you for this tournament. Or are you actually out of town?
I'm in Toronto for the weekend.
I was thinking you and I should both leave town where we can watch it in peace without our families and rent a place down south or something and watch it there. Better yet, show up around the tournament venue somewhere, but maybe one year.
Yeah, 1 year we'll definitely get that done.
Yeah. All right. No, well, best of luck, guys. Yeah, I hope everyone's lineups perform well this week, and we're able to give you. If anyone wants to jump on the bandwagon with my live lineup, best of luck to you. And looking forward to this one. It's going to be a fun week.
Yeah, good luck with your lineups. Gamble responsibly is something I have to tell myself this week because it's so easy to just get carried away with all the possibilities. But definitely enjoy the tournament. It's always a good one. And with these conditions, anything is going to happen this week.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.